When a woman ignores you, most men make the same fatal mistake. They chase after her. It's instinctive, but it's also a mistake. Most men, when faced with silence or withdrawal from a woman, panic. They think that by begging, pleading, or constantly trying to win her back, they can reverse the situation. But Machiavelli, the great strategist, understood something that modern men often forget. The real power isn't earned through begging or desperation. It's earned through calculated indifference. He knew that the way to control a woman's attention wasn't to chase her, but to turn her own game back on her. This is the key to mastering attraction and emotional power. By understanding her silence and using it to your advantage, you don't lose a woman. You turn her into your admirer. The real power in relationships and in seduction is mastering the art of remaining emotionally composed, no matter how the situation unfolds. The more you chase, the more you lose. The more you remain detached and focused on your own growth, the more you elevate yourself. So how do you respond to her silence, to her withdrawal, to her unpredictable behavior? Let me explain why her silence is not an accident. It's a deliberate strategy to measure your emotional strength. In this situation, most men begin overanalyzing her behavior, second-guessing every interaction, and trying to decipher her cryptic responses. But Machiavelli understood that the emotional game most men fall into is just that, a game. And like any game, it can be played in reverse. When you master the art of calculated indifference, you're not reacting to her mood swings or reading into every silence. Instead, you mirror her silence. You reflect it. You don't give her the emotional reaction she's seeking. Her silence, her distance, her coldness, it's all a test. It's her way of measuring your emotional resilience. She's waiting to see if you can hold your ground, whether you're desperate for her attention or whether you'll crumble under the pressure. There are 3 types of silence that you need to understand. First, there's the test silence. She still watches your stories but doesn't respond to your messages. She's playing hard to get, trying to see if you'll chase her. Second, there's the processing silence. She completely disappears from social media, doesn't reply to anyone. This is not about you. It's about her needing space. Something is happening in her life, and she's retreating to deal with it. Third, there's the rejection silence. This is where she gives dry responses, offers excuses, and becomes cold. She has already decided there's no future between you two, and she's hoping you'll get the hint. Now, the question is, how do you respond to each of these situations? Most men panic. They analyze, they overthink, and they chase after the woman. They think if they just say the right thing, if they just explain themselves better, she'll come back. But the power isn't in begging for attention. The real power is in maintaining control over your emotions. You become a mirror to her behavior. If she takes hours to reply, you take hours to reply. Not because you're being petty, but because you have self-respect. If she cancels plans at the last minute, you don't argue. Instead, you make new plans for yourself or with someone else, but you never act out of desperation. If she turns cold, you don't chase warmth. You remain calm, composed, and distant. You let her silence breathe. You don't fight fire with fire. You starve the drama of attention, and it dies quietly. This tactic works because it shifts the balance of power without needing a single word. You're not reacting. You're reflecting. You're not suppressing your emotions. You're channeling them into strategy. The psychological effect of this is devastating. Women expect pursuit. They expect weakness. They expect to win. But when all they find is stillness, when they encounter a man who doesn't flinch, her strategy starts falling apart. She was expecting to manipulate, to control the situation. But when she can't get a rise out of you, she starts questioning herself. Her narrative crumbles. And this is when power shifts to you. By not chasing her, by not trying to win her back, you take control. You don't fight to get her back into your life. You focus on evolving yourself. You transform reaction into creation. While she withdraws and plays games, you're building your life. You're hitting the gym, advancing your career, mastering new skills. You're not sitting around waiting for her to come back. You're becoming a stronger, more valuable version of yourself. The longer you remain indifferent, the more you build your life without her, the more you show her that you don't need her validation to succeed. The real power comes when you realize that her attention, or lack of it, is not the center of your universe. Here's the brilliant part. When you start posting pictures of yourself at the gym, your business projects, your nights out with friends, she begins to feel the loss. She starts to realize that her silence didn't destroy you. It triggered your growth. Her emotional manipulation started to push you toward your personal evolution. And this, psychologically, is devastating for her. She thought you needed her attention to thrive, but now she sees that you've only gotten better without her. This, my friend, is the ultimate power shift. Her silence is no longer a tool of control. It becomes the fuel for your transformation. She expected you to chase after her, to beg for her attention. But instead, you became stronger, better, more focused. You weren't just ignoring her. You were living your life with purpose. And now, that silence is louder than any word could be, but there's a dangerous part of this process. When she returns, after a few weeks of being silent, of testing you, she might come back. And this is where most men make the fatal mistake. They slip back into old habits. They get excited when they see her message. Their heart races and they forget everything they've built. They drop their guard, and in doing so, they lose everything they've gained. When she reaches out to you after you've built your value and become a better version of yourself, don't let your excitement and desperation take over. Don't collapse into her embrace. Don't be that man who lets everything he worked for go to waste. When she texts you, when she reaches out, don't react immediately. Don't drop everything to respond. Keep your cool. Maintain the same energy and priorities that you've had throughout your transformation. If you used to take hours to reply, keep doing that. If you had routines and commitments, don't cancel them for her. This isn't a game, it's consistency. It's about showing her that your growth was never conditional on her validation. It's about proving that you don't need her to continue becoming the man you've become. This is the critical moment. You can't let the return be your regression. If you fold under the pressure and run back to her, you're teaching her that your self-worth depends on her attention. But if you stay the same, if you keep building, she'll respect that. She'll start to see that she can't manipulate you. And this, more than anything, will draw her back to you. But be careful. If you fold, you've lost. If you stay true to yourself and your goals, you've won. When you start living for yourself, building your life and your future without relying on anyone else's approval, that's when you'll see real power. And this power isn't about revenge or manipulation. It's about the emotional strength that comes from becoming your own man. This is the true Machiavellian way. To never rely on others for your happiness or success. To understand that silence isn't a rejection, but an opportunity to grow. To turn every situation into a chance for self-improvement. And most importantly, to never let anyone control your emotional energy again. As you continue this journey of mastering emotional resilience, you'll soon realize that the most important factor in attraction isn't just how well you can play the game, but how well you can evolve beyond it. The true test of power isn't merely in surviving the emotional games that women often play, it's in transcending them entirely. As you deepen your understanding of yourself, you move beyond reactive behaviors and enter a space of proactive growth and self-empowerment. This is the level where real power resides. When a woman pulls away, whether it's through silence or distance, she may be trying to control the narrative of the relationship. She wants to see if you'll chase her or crumble under her emotional manipulation. However, When you understand that silence isn't a weapon aimed at you, but a test of your emotional fortitude, you gain a much stronger position. In reality, it's a test of her ability to control you, not a reflection of your value. If you fold under pressure, you reinforce her belief that she has power over you. But if you stand firm, focus on your own growth, and never let her emotional shifts dictate your actions, you not only pass the test, but also reshape the dynamic entirely. The true art of seduction and emotional control lies in maintaining an unhackable sense of self, regardless of external circumstances. By investing in your growth, physically, mentally, and emotionally, you make yourself inherently more valuable, not just to her, but to the world around you. This is why Machiavelli's wisdom, originally applied to the world of political strategy, works perfectly in the realm of relationships. The core principle remains the same. Power is never given. It is earned slowly, over time, and through one's ability to maintain control over their own actions, emotions, and desires. Machiavelli understood that power isn't about brute force or constant action. It's about knowing when to act, when to be still, and how to master the delicate dance of cause and effect. This applies directly to relationships. When you stop reacting to her moods, when you stop trying to decode her silence or chase her affection, you take control of the situation in a way that forces her to respect your boundaries and your self-worth. The moment she sees that you don't flinch at her distance, she realizes you're no longer the man she once knew, the man who could be manipulated with a look or a silent treatment. Your personal growth is the most attractive thing you can offer in any relationship. The more you focus on bettering yourself, whether it's improving your career, learning new skills, getting in better physical shape, or developing a more fulfilling social life, the less room there is for her games. The more valuable you become as an individual, the less interested you are in playing games or chasing attention. This shift in focus doesn't just elevate your life, it disrupts the power dynamics of your relationships. When you're constantly evolving, you become a magnet for respect. Women, and people in general, are attracted to those who are emotionally self-sufficient, who have clear goals, who are driven and not easily swayed by emotional fluctuations. As you elevate yourself and move forward in life, the tactics and games that used to manipulate you become less effective. You no longer react to her need for attention, her withdrawal, or her silence. You don't need to be constantly validated. And this, ironically, is the most magnetic quality of all. This process doesn't just benefit you in relationships with women, it applies to every area of your life. The principles of calculated indifference, emotional resilience, and proactive growth will make you more effective at handling stress, adversity, and challenges. As you become more disciplined, you learn how to control your reactions. You become less emotional in your responses and more rational, more strategic. This transformation builds a foundation of self-respect and confidence, which only grows as you continue to build your life and your personal value. When you focus on the long term, you see that a woman's attention isn't a prize to be won. It's a natural byproduct of living a life that is fulfilling and successful on your own terms. Instead of seeing her as the central figure in your life, you see her as one part of a larger, more expansive existence. You're not trying to get her back, because you've realized that your worth was never tied to her. Your worth is innate, and no amount of silence or attention can change that. Here's the real kicker. When a woman sees that her silence no longer affects you, she may begin to question herself. She may begin to wonder if she made a mistake in thinking she could manipulate you. She might feel the urge to come back, to re-enter your life, because she sees that your life is moving forward without her. This is when the power truly shifts. She may have started the game by withdrawing and testing your emotional resilience, but now the tables are turned. The power dynamic has completely reversed. What was once a game for her becomes a path of self-discovery for you. In fact, when she reappears, the real test begins. How do you respond? Do you slip back into the same patterns of desperation and need, or do you remain firm in your growth? The key here is consistency. When she comes back, don't let her re-enter your life as if nothing happened. Don't revert to your old ways of seeking validation or approval from her. Instead, maintain the same composure, the same sense of purpose, and the same personal growth that you've cultivated during her absence. If you respond the same way to her return as you did during her absence, you show her that your worth was never dependent on her validation. You demonstrate that your life continues to grow without her. This is when she starts to realize that she can no longer control you. And this is when you have truly mastered the principles of Machiavellian power in relationships. You've learned to take control not just of the dynamic between the two of you, but of your own life and your own emotional well-being. In the end, what you're truly building is an empire. You're building a life that is so fulfilling, so complete, that no external factor, not her silence, her withdrawal, or even her return, can shake your foundation. And when you've built that empire, when you've cultivated that inner strength, you become a man who is too valuable to chase. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone. Your value is evident in everything you do, and it's undeniable. This is the true power of calculated indifference. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about genuinely having a life that's worth living, regardless of whether she's a part of it. And when you've mastered this, you'll see that relationships, attraction, and power dynamics are no longer games to be played. They're just natural extensions of the life you've already built for yourself. A life that is whole, complete, and unwavering. And that, my friend, is where real power lies. The shift from reacting to situations, especially in relationships, to proactively designing your life is one of the most powerful transformations you can make. At the core of this transformation is the understanding that your emotional state shouldn't be dictated by anyone, not by her silence, her withdrawal, or her attempts to manipulate your actions. Real power lies in your ability to remain calm, composed, and focused on your own journey. When you stop seeking validation and approval from others, you free yourself to grow, evolve, and master your life. This philosophy is not just about handling women or relationships effectively, but about shaping a life that has intrinsic value, one where every decision, every action, and every relationship is an extension of the growth you have committed to. This is where the principles of calculated indifference become not only applicable to relationships, but to every aspect of life. It's about creating a mindset that remains unaffected by external fluctuations. When you become solid in your purpose, when you are unwavering in your progress, you begin to attract people who align with your goals, your values, and your vision for the future. Machiavelli's teachings about power were rooted in an understanding that real strength comes not from conquering others, but from mastering yourself. He taught that you can control a situation, not by playing to the whims of others, but by maintaining your integrity and composure, by knowing when to act and when to remain still. His approach was to remain 3 steps ahead, not just in political warfare, but in all situations that demand strategic thinking and emotional control. When a woman pulls away or gives you the silent treatment, it's not a declaration of defeat. It's a moment where you get to decide what your next step will be. You can choose to react emotionally, to chase after her, to overanalyze every little thing she says or does. Or you can take the opportunity to reflect and act with strategic indifference. The real test in these moments isn't whether she returns to you, but whether you've mastered the emotional resilience to handle the situation with grace and control. It's about setting the terms of engagement, not by pleading or begging, but by remaining steady and letting your own self-confidence and emotional independence lead the way. By resisting the urge to chase, you show that your value does not depend on her approval. This is not about being cold or detached for the sake of manipulation, but about cultivating genuine self-respect. When you stop chasing her, you start focusing on yourself. You improve your life, your career, your health, and your sense of purpose. These things naturally increase your value, making you more attractive not just to her, but to the world around you. This shift from reaction to creation is where your true power lies. You are no longer at the mercy of her mood swings or emotional games. You take control by building the kind of life that doesn't need external validation to feel worthy. The real strength in these situations comes from knowing that your worth is not tied to her attention or affection. You're building something much bigger than any relationship